Behind the legend. Among all the encounters recorded in the Bible, few have sparked as much fascination, speculation, and myth as the visit of the Queen of Sheba to King Solomon. Over time, the story evolved far beyond the few verses that mention it in Scripture. Legends from Ethiopia, Arabia, and Islamic tradition claim that Sheba and Solomon married, that they had a son named Menelik, and that this son carried the Ark of the Covenant to Africa. But what does history actually say? What do we know from Scripture, from archaeology, and from reliable historical sources? And what are merely later inventions? This study separates facts from fiction. What the Bible truly records, what the Quran and later traditions added. How the Kebra created a dynasty and a myth. What archaeology reveals about Sheba's real kingdom. What's certain, what's doubtful, and what lessons remain. 1. What the Bible really says. The scriptural record story appears in 1 Kings 10, 1-13, and 2 Chronicles 9, 1-12. The Queen of Sheba, hearing of Solomon's fame, comes to Jerusalem to test him with hard questions. She arrives with camels loaded with spices, gold, and precious stones, a sign of her own immense wealth. Solomon answers all her questions. She sees the splendor of his palace, his servants, his offerings, his wisdom, and she is overwhelmed. She says to him, "The report I heard in my own country about your achievements and your wisdom is true. But I did not believe these things until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, not even half was told me." 1 Kings 10, 6-7. She then gives Solomon 120 talents of gold and abundant spices, receives gifts in return, and returns to her own land with her servants. That's it. There is no mention of romance, marriage, or a child. The Bible closes the episode immediately after her departure. The New Testament reference centuries later, Jesus refers to her briefly. The Queen of the South will rise at the judgment with this generation, for she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom. Matthew 12:42. Here, she is an example of someone who sought wisdom, not a mythical consort or matriarch. Modern readers often fall into the trap of adding details where Scripture is silent. The Bible does not name her country precisely, does not describe her appearance, and does not portray a romantic link. Her visit's main purpose is to highlight the fame and wisdom of Solomon, nothing more. 2. Islamic and Jewish traditions. Bilqis, the Queen of the South. The Quran, Surah 27, the ants. In Islamic tradition, Sheba becomes Bilqis. The Quran retells a version of the story emphasizing monotheism and submission to God. The prophet King Solomon learns about a queen who rules over a mighty people and is given of everything, yet she and her people worship the sun. He sends her a letter calling her to worship Allah. When she comes to Solomon's court, she witnesses his miraculous power and wisdom. Eventually she declares, "My Lord, I have wronged myself, and I submit with Solomon to Allah, Lord of the worlds." Quran 27:44. Important. The Quran never says they married or had a child. Those details appear only in later Islamic folklore, centuries after Muhammad. Later Jewish midrashic additions. In post-biblical Jewish writings, like Targum Sheni and Alphabet of Ben Sira, we find colorful expansions. The queen is tested by Solomon, sometimes portrayed as half-demon or with hairy legs, symbolic tales about temptation and purity. Other versions absurdly claim Nebuchadnezzar or Alexander the Great descended from her, pure legend, never intended as literal history. These midrashim were moral allegories, not historical accounts. The Hairy Legs folktale. A bizarre but enduring folktale says Solomon's glass floor revealed the queen's legs, proving she had animal traits. Solomon then created a depilatory ointment. This story spread across Jewish, Arab, and Ethiopian lore, not to describe her, but to dramatize human imperfection before divine wisdom. Historically? Zero evidence. It's a legend reflecting cultural symbolism about gender and purity. The Ethiopian legend, Kebra Nagast and Menelik. What the Kebra Nagast is, the glory of kings, is an Ethiopian epic written in Ge'ez around the 14th century AD. It compiles older oral and written traditions, claiming to preserve a hidden biblical lineage. To legitimize the Solomonic dynasty that ruled Ethiopia until the 20th century, asserting direct descent from King David through Solomon. The story it tells in the Kebra Nagast, the queen, now called Makeda, travels from Ethiopia to visit Solomon in Jerusalem. She stays months learning from him and is astonished by his wisdom. One night, Solomon tricks her into breaking an oath and they sleep together. She returns home pregnant and gives birth to Menelik the Wirsh. Years later, Menelik visits Jerusalem, meets his father, and secretly takes the Ark of the Covenant back to Ethiopia, fulfilling divine prophecy. From this myth arises the Ethiopian claim that the Ark still rests in Axum, guarded in a chapel today. Ethiopian kings were direct descendants of Solomon and Makeda. Modern scholarship agrees. The Kebra Nagast is a political religious epic, not a historical record. It was written roughly 2,000 years after Solomon, long after any verifiable memory of the event. It reflects Ethiopia's Christian self-understanding, portraying itself as the new Israel. No ancient inscription, document, or archaeological site confirms that Menelik Wine, or the Ark, ever existed in Ethiopia. Nevertheless, the legend shaped Ethiopian identity for centuries. The emperors of Ethiopia, including Haile Selassie I, claimed descent from Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This belief inspired national pride, religion, and even the Rastafarian movement's view of Ethiopia as the chosen land. Historically questionable, yes, but culturally profound. 4. Archaeology and historical evidence. Now, what does archaeology actually show about the real kingdom of Sheba? Most scholars identify Sheba with the ancient Sabaean kingdom in southern Arabia, modern-day Yemen. Its capital was likely Marib, a city of monumental temples, irrigation systems, and wealth from frankincense and myrrh trade routes. Archaeological excavations in Marib reveal the Grand Awam Temple, also called Maram Bilqis. Thousands of Sabaic inscriptions mentioning kings, gods, and trade, but none mention a queen visiting Jerusalem or a ruler named Solomon. The Sabaean kingdom flourished from the 8th century BC onward, roughly consistent with Solomon's time, 10th century BC, but not exact. Thus, a diplomatic or trade visit from Sheba to Israel is plausible, but not proven. Archaeology in Israel itself hints at Arabian contact. Incense routes stretched from Yemen through Arabia to the Mediterranean. Excavations in Jerusalem, the Ophel area, uncovered fragments of pottery inscribed with letters suggesting spices from Sheba were used in the temple, though scholars debate the reading. Even without that inscription, multiple sources confirm trade in gold, spices, and incense between Arabia and the Levant. So, trade connections between Solomon's Israel and Sheba's Arabia are historically credible, but again, no personal link between the two rulers is attested. The limits of evidence. To date, no inscription names the Queen of Sheba, Makeda, or Bilqis as a historical person. No record mentions marriage or a child. No archaeological proof connects Ethiopia and Solomon's court in the 10th century BC. In short, archaeology supports a real kingdom of Sheba and possible diplomatic contact, but not the romantic or dynastic legends. 5. Where faith ends and myth begins. After reviewing all evidence, we can divide the story into 3 layers. Layer 1, the historical core. A wealthy queen from the south, likely Arabia, visited Solomon. She came seeking wisdom, not marriage. She admired Israel's prosperity and worshipped the God of Solomon. Then she returned home. This is what the Bible reliably gives us. Layer 2, religious and moral embellishments. Jewish midrashim and Islamic stories dramatize the meeting. These highlight humility, wisdom, and conversion, moral lessons, not data. Layer 3, political myth-making. The Kebra Nagast created a sacred genealogy to empower Ethiopian kings. It wove theology and politics into one. Ethiopia as God's new Zion. Recognizing these layers helps protect faith from confusion. Believers can honor Scripture's truth while appreciating the cultural beauty of later legends without mistaking them for fact. 6. Spiritual and philosophical reflections. Even stripped of myth, the Queen of Sheba remains a powerful figure. The courage to seek truth, she traveled over 1,500 miles across deserts, guided only by rumors of a man endowed with divine wisdom. Her journey reflects the human desire for understanding, the drive to seek answers, even from distant lands. It's the same curiosity that leads scientists, historians, and believers alike to search for truth today. She was already rich. Her caravans carried tons of gold and jewels, yet she sought something money couldn't buy: understanding. That's why Jesus used her as an example. She represents the person who leaves comfort behind to pursue wisdom. The dignity of inquiry. Faith and questioning are not enemies. Her story proves that seeking knowledge is itself an act of humility. To test, to ask, to verify, these are sacred actions when done sincerely. In an age of social media myths and conspiracy theories, the Queen of Sheba teaches us discernment. Don't believe everything you hear. Investigate, compare sources, and seek truth over tradition. The world doesn't need more legends disguised as facts. It needs truth told with courage and respect. 7. What we can safely say. After all study, this is the most accurate summary possible today. The Queen of Sheba was real, almost certainly a monarch from the Sabaean kingdom in Arabia, modern Yemen. She visited Solomon, according to both the Bible and similar patterns of diplomatic exchange in the region. They did not marry, and there is no evidence of a child named Menelik Wine from that union. The Ethiopian legend arose centuries later as a theological political myth, not as a historical continuation. Archaeology supports trade, not romance. Her story remains timeless as a symbol of wisdom, humility, and cross-cultural dialogue. 8. Wisdom over myth. You can end your video or article with this kind of reflection. The Queen of Sheba didn't travel to Israel looking for romance. She came searching for wisdom, and left with more than gold could ever buy. History may not prove a royal marriage or a child, but it does prove something greater. That truth attracts those who hunger for it. And perhaps that's why her story endures, because in a world full of myths, the greatest treasure is still wisdom itself. Now that you know what history actually says, do you still believe Solomon and the Queen of Sheba had something going on? Tell me below. Let's see how many people still believe the legend. Follow for more to rise again.